Hi, I'm Jessica Lahr, and here's a look at what's trending this week on FingerLakes1.com. After an unwelcomed cool down over the past few days here, it looks like we're setting up for an incredible stretch of weather straight into next week. If you have outdoor plans this weekend, boy, are you in luck. Friday should be a fantastically perfect spring day with plenty of sun and a high near 73. More of the same on Saturday and Sunday with highs in the lower 70s. Just a few more clouds on Saturday than Sunday, but both days should be awesome to be out and about around the Finger Lakes. Last Thursday, temperatures rose into the lower 70s and we had our first real taste of summer. Rachel Burkholder spent part of the day in Seneca Falls along Van Cleef Lake and the Canal Harbor. Check out these great shots. Great forecast. We should enjoy plenty of scenes like that this weekend. Great photos, Rachel. One of the rites of spring in Newark is the return of Newark Pilots Baseball. The Pilots are a member of the Perfect Game Collegiate Baseball League, which features some of the country's top college baseball players every summer at Colburn Park. This year, the Geneva Red Wings join the Newark Pilots and the Victor Rail Riders to set up some great local rivalries. On Monday morning's episode of Weber This Week, Bob and Leslie Oman, owners of the Newark Pilots franchise, were in studio to talk about the addition of Geneva to the PGCBL.
With us this morning, Bob and Leslie Oman, and we're going to talk about Geneva. And Bob, let's talk about that. People have been asking me, knowing you were coming on this morning with Leslie, what is your role in Geneva? Are you a part owner? Are you a consultant? What is the story with you, and how did you get Geneva to come into the league?
I'm a part owner.
Okay.
You know, Dave Herbst, who is in Geneva.
Okay.
You know, we had talked quite a bit, and we wanted to upgrade the different venues.
Sure.
And as if you know, Dave lives in Rochester,
right,
and he's done a really good job there. But it's like he doesn't have. He's a baseball guy.
Right.
And I think, and one of the things that he looked over, he came to a couple games in Newark, and we had a night that we must have about 2,000 people there.
Amazing.
And he goes,
wow,
this is just vibrant. And I said, yeah. I said, you know, we don't have nights like this every night, obviously, but you know, he goes, well, let's figure out how to put this together for over in Geneva. So we met with the city, and they welcomed it. And then I put together a plan on what I thought we needed to do inside the ballpark, and the city obviously cooperated too, and we were in the process of doing it. We've got a bunch of things that we haven't got done yet, but we're working on. We got new seating behind home plate. We've rebuilt the field. Our groundskeeper in Newark is one of the best in the area.
What's his name?
Dan Wilkerson.
Okay, I met Dan. Yeah.
And Dan went over to Geneva and rebuilt the infield, and we cut it out. You'll see a whole different look on that. We did a lot of painting out there, And I've got another fella who I brought in with me, who I started in Buffalo when I was in the home building business, Bill Kohlberger.
He was on the show.
Yep. And I said, Bill, you got to be the salesman. You got to get out there and meet some of these people and sell some advertising so we can help pay for all this.
Sure.
And he went out and he hit the road running, and he's done one heck of a job. And I always kind of laugh because he's always, the next word is, I'm going to upsell. and he's done good. And then we've redone the concession stand to kind of mirror what we've got over in Newark. We painted it. We hired a power cleaner to come in, and we've got a really good partnership with Sam Adams Beer and of course Pepsi-Cola in Geneva. And then what we've done is we've repainted you'll just see all new stuff. Your souvenir stand is brand new. We've got flags up and around. We've got banners. It's not done yet, so it's going to look even better and better as we go along, because it's like any old ballpark, it needs a lot of work.
But in honesty, Leslie, what this shapes up to be, Victor, Geneva, Newark, you've got some unbelievable rivals that are going to be created.
It's going to be awesome. Our rival, our biggest, I think it's formed, even since we joined the league, has been Elmira, typically in the past, and I think that's going to change for us real quick. So we're excited about that. But Bob knows I'm always going to be a pilot. I've told him that. I welcome the Geneva thing, and I love it, and it's great. It keeps the guys, like I said, not spending all that time on the bus and whatnot. But, I'm excited about the partial venture with Geneva, but
sure.
I'm a pilot.
That's right. That's right. Once a pilot, always a pilot.
That's right. That's the motto.
That's right. And Bob, let's talk about the league in per se. Run down the teams, if you would, for us. I know you probably know them back
in our division, we've got a new team called. Well, it's not a new team because it used to be the NYP league when the Newark Co-Pilots and the Geneva Cubs is Jamestown.
Okay.
And then we've got Victor.
Right.
We've got Geneva, Newark. Obviously, two different cities. And then we've got Mohawk Valley, which is in Little Falls. Got Elmira. You've got Amsterdam, Albany, Utica, Saugerties, Little Falls. Oneonta. So what you've got is the old NYP League types of ballparks. And it's really kind of cool because you pull in and you've got that old nostalgia, like what you have when you go to McDonough Park.
Right.
It's funny, McDonough Park, I still remember the Chiron Park.
I do too.
My dad used to take me to games there when, obviously, Pete Rose. And, and Tony Perez. Yeah. I look back, that was fond memories.
Oh, yeah, some great memories. Just a question, a baseball story that has hit the airwaves.
You can learn more about the Pilots at www.newarkpilots.com and the Geneva Red Wings at www.genevaredwings.com. Parking in downtown Skaneateles hasn't changed since the implementation of parking kiosks about 10 years ago. However, a recent hike from $2 to $6 in one of the municipal lots has caught some employees working in downtown Skaneateles by surprise. Parking passes are available, according to Village Administrator Patty Couch, at a cost of $50 per month. The new rates were adopted in a resolution at the Village Board meeting on May 11th. You can read our full report on this story at the Cayuga Get Local section at FingerLakes1.com. More great spring photos keep pouring in here at FingerLakes1.com. Here are some of our favorites this week. After a rainy morning on Friday, Eric Gabrielson waited as the fog lifted to reveal a mirror-like finish on Seneca Lake in Watkins Glen. Shelley Lannon photographed this barn on Packwood Road in Waterloo, which stood bright against the dark skies of Saturday afternoon. It was a beautiful day at the beach at Sodas Point as Rachel Burkholder captured this great shot late last week. Rochelle Burkholder went along with her mother Rachel to Sodas Point, not unlike this mama duck photographed by Rochelle, who has her ducklings in a row. Our graphic artist and web developer Janice Loudon captured this photo of the fan installment along the Ludovico Sculpture Trail in Seneca Falls late last week. Lisa Dupre thought that Seneca Lake looked so beautiful last Thursday morning that she had to stop and take this picture, proving spring has finally arrived. And Luann Lurch captured the view on East Lake Road in Romulus Friday night as the sun set over Seneca Lake. Awesome photos. I'm already looking forward to seeing what's sent in for next week's show with the great forecast on tap. If you'd like to send us your local photos, scroll to the bottom of our photos page at fingerlakes1.com to learn how. Also on fingerlakes1.tv this week, Waterloo Town Justice Christopher Folk was in studio as a guest on Inside the FLX with Josh Durso, where they had a very interesting discussion on technology and the state of the upstate New York economy.
So one of the issues that in some ways probably led to a number of these other issues, the economy, economic issues, you've got low-income issues, and you've got a number of things sort of leading to these bad roads that people can take. What do you think on the economic side, just as far as what can be done or what is being done that you like, that you've seen, and what is your perspective as a judge on that sort of process?
I think ultimately a lot of things come right back to the economic root. Mm-hmm. So when people have, lack of careers, lack of job opportunities, a lack of good perspective, then they fall back on, the tried and true. And when it becomes easier to take someone else's thing rather than be able to earn and get your own possessions, if you will, then that becomes a problem, and that's pervasive. And, one of the issues there is it kind of comes back to my tech background. Moving back here, trying to overcome the hurdles of not having high-speed infrastructure. Mm-hmm. I think, and I view high-speed infrastructure and the communications therein as really being a fundamental right. I mean, if you look back to when they rolled out telephone service across the U.S., there were households that were relegated to second-class citizenry because they didn't have access to basic communication services. And now, as we see here, I mean, this studio is living proof the fact that things are out on social media. They're being leveraged on high-speed networks, their ability to stream live, to download. People that don't have that capability are really missing out on a crucial media outlet, and I think they're being bypassed. And one of the things we can do is if we can build the infrastructure, if we can roll out basic communication services, then that helps not only the citizen in their consumption, but it also allows businesses to take advantage of that as well. So we have the ability to do remote workers. I mean, one of the things, for instance, right now, I did actually an externship in cybersecurity last summer in Washington, D.C., and I actually just got an update from the National Institute of Standards and Technology this morning, and there are approximately 300,000 unfilled cybersecurity jobs, and that's expected to grow to 1.5 million within the next 5 years. Mm-hmm. That's a huge glut of unfilled, skilled technology jobs. And NIST, for instance, is trying to put in programs where they develop programs with high schools. They give them grant money. They allow educators to come up to speed on cybersecurity to then train high school students. And one of the things you'll see, like in the metro areas, DC metro area, there are high school students that are being trained in cybersecurity. Over their summer breaks, they're making anywhere from $10,000, $15,000 to $20,000 working in an apprenticeship type fashion for cybersecurity companies. Now, I think that's a huge advantage. And one of the things we see is the students and the kids and the youth, almost everyone really across the board, is immersed in technology. It's everywhere. It's ubiquitous. It's all around us. We really have no choice. It pervades every aspect of our lives. So if you can take something that they enjoy doing and you can leverage that and you can use that to build the economy, then I think you have, kind of cliche, but it's a win-win situation.
Mm-hmm. Now, over the last couple decades, really just a decade and a half, a little more than a decade and a half, technology has really aggressively grown, and even now it's moving faster than I think most people realize. What has been your perspective as far as not just the person who worked in it, not just the person who is sitting judge, but also just from the personal standpoint, are we keeping up? Are we actually keeping up with the pace of change, or is this something, because you're talking about a lot of whether it's professional, giving kids more opportunities, you're talking about a lot of things that frankly I don't think exist in a lot of places, like this region, for example. Sure. Is that something that has to be worked on at the systemic level, or is that something that should happen automatically?
Well, I think fundamentally it needs to happen. I mean that's where we're going. Everything technology, as I said, is pervasive. Rather, it's everywhere. It's completely enmeshed, and we need to look at that both at the grassroots level. Getting local educators involved, reaching out to school boards, ensuring that there's those programs in place. And we've put a lot of money and effort into programs like the STEM program, which are crucial. But let's add the other piece. Cybersecurity is huge, and one of the things you said about the pace of technology. Look at the OPM data breach, the IRS data breach. This is huge, 26 million records of immense personally identifiable information that has been exfiltrated perhaps to outside countries, or most likely to outside countries. You have a huge issue, and a lot of people just don't understand. They don't understand that their data is everywhere, that the little store cards they fill out, that data is being tracked, it's being monitored, and it's out there, and it's not necessarily secure, and people don't really understand how to secure it. So if we can get the new generation involved in it, if we can get mid-career people that want to make a switch involved in it, then we can take advantage of the unfilled jobs, we can do the training that's necessary, and we can try to come back in and match pace with technology and where it is now.
Now, what do you think the big, or say the big three issues are facing the region as a whole? What are some of the, as a guy who sees the crime side of it, but also the sort of process on the outside after they're released, after they're back into the public, what are the challenges, the big challenges facing whole region?
Certainly. Well, I think overall, we've touched on it already, but it's the economy. I mean, fundamentally, unless we're able to grow the economy, the expenditures aren't realistically ever going to decrease. When you look at something like the tax cap and the formula approach, I mean, you look at that as an arbitrary force being imposed on market conditions. And when you say, look, we're going to keep this to 2% or 3%, I view that as, you got a patient that's bleeding and you put a tourniquet on him.
Yeah.
All right, you still have to take the next step. What's next? The tax cap was great. We needed relief. The tax burden is oppressive. It's affecting all of us. Homeowners, taxpayers are being stifled by that. And you look at that and say, well, okay, so we've got the tax cap. That was a great first step to try to stem some of that bleeding. But then you say, what are we doing about critical infrastructure? What are our needs? Have we assessed them? What do we need going forward? And would it be more practical to obviate the tax cap for a 1 to 2 to 3 to 5 year time frame so that we can build the infrastructure, we can bring the companies in, we can increase the economy on the revenue side. If we can leave expenditures the same or slightly decrease, then overall we've progressed. And then we can look at actually decreasing the tax burden on a more longer term scale. So I think, the economy, which really ties into the tax burden, which also ties into government regulation. My wife had a small business in this area, and the amount of oversight, the amount of paperwork, the burden on a small business owner is significant, to say the least. I mean, that's a huge issue. And there really aren't a lot of grassroots agencies that are able to step in and say, so you want to start a business, do X, Y, and Z, fill this out. I mean, you have to bring in an attorney. You need an accountant. All these compound the issues. When you have that much regulation that's stifling the ability of small businesses to create and flourish, then I think that also pushes economic pressures on the region, which are negative. And then, the whole personal freedom thing, which really ties back into regulation. So, we want government to be there when we need it, but we don't want it to be in our lives all the time. I mean, it should be an aid. It shouldn't be an overseer and a manager of everything we do in our lives. So, I think those are huge. And then you look at, I guess the third thing, it's unfortunate, but what really impacts us is the opioid epidemic and the fact that the addiction is rampant. It's affecting the economy. It's affecting the criminal justice system. We see a lot more cases there, a lot more people. It's having an overall overwhelming negative effect on our region.
Now, looking specifically at smaller communities, smaller rural communities, we'll say, like a Seneca Falls or a Waterloo, what are sort of some of the unique challenges that you see them facing that perhaps, you go a little bit west and you're in Rochester or you're in Syracuse and you don't actually see the same types of problems? Are there certain unique problems in a place like Waterloo? I know in the last couple years, Lee Bieber has really been developing or trying to develop quite a bit in downtown. The downtown space seems to be one area where a lot of improvement is needed, because there are a lot of, you go to Clyde, you go to these surrounding communities, and there's vacancies, there's empty storefronts. What is the combination, I guess, for the smaller communities that the larger aren't having to deal with?
Certainly, and I think a lot of that, not to overuse this, but it really comes back to the technology and what do we have for high-speed communication, and what do we have that we're providing to people. So when you look at a more rural community, even though Waterloo and Seneca Falls are obviously more centric, when you go to the outlying places, they may not have basic internet access. They may not have the tools that the city of Canandaigua, the city of Geneva. You look at Monroe County, Tompkins County. They're not facing some of those issues. They have a pervasive, overreaching infrastructure that gives people this basic fundamental access to technology. And when you talk to somebody from there, they take it for granted. You walk around, you've got cell signal, you've got data. There are places you drive through Seneca County, you drive through Wayne County, you drive to various other places. You may not have any cell phone signal at all, let alone data. And these are things that they're affecting us. And you look at it, also if you take an upstate versus a downstate, you talk to people downstate, they don't get the concept that there could even, a dead zone. What is that? There is no concept of a dead zone in New York City. I mean, everything, technology touches every single point. Everyone is connected. That's the world they live in. Everything is right there. The infrastructure there. I mean, going back to infrastructure, we've got places in the southern part of the county that don't have basic water and sewer services. I mean, we're just now in 2016, running water and sewer out to where the new casino is being built. We've got the whole 414 corridor that's been underdeveloped, and we don't have the basic infrastructure there. And it'd certainly be my hope that when they're running the water and sewer, they're also laying down some dark fiber. So we have that as well. So I think, that's one of the things. And you see the out-migration. You see people, like my kids, for instance, the youth. They're here, and you want them to be here. It's a wonderful place to grow up. But, what are their long-term prospects? Okay, my two girls are interested in technology. What's here for them? It'd be great if they got into cybersecurity, but currently there's nothing here. They're going to have to go to a metro area. They're going to have to go to a Rochester or Syracuse or D.C. or New York City in order to take advantage of those skills. And when you have that, people leave, and then you're faced with downtowns that have empty buildings. You're faced with malls that are empty. Look at the Hugo Mall, for instance. I mean, you see structures all through the place that simply are being underutilized. They're not to capacity, and people have simply left. We're facing an out-migration problem where people that have, good-paying jobs, good careers, they live here, they work here, they retire, and then they're moving down south, where there's less of a tax burden, where their dollar goes further, where their cost of living is far greater. And I think that's a fundamental problem. And, people like Lee Bieber coming here, that's great that investment is here, but we need to make sure we follow up and we back that up, and that we have the investment and we have the people coming in that are able to take advantage of these redeveloped areas.
Now, what has your perspective been seeing the progress out at the casino site, the Del Lago casino site? It seemed now that the legal troubles seem to be mostly behind the developers. What has your perspective been seeing that go up? Is that sort of a saving grace or a lifeline for future development?
Well, I think it's critical that we develop. Having traveled the country extensively, you look around other areas like the South, for instance, and they have rapid development. I mean, they've been building out North Carolina, Raleigh, Triangle Park area. They've been building out, expanding everywhere. Even Rochester and Syracuse, you see expansion. Now, the fact that the casino is the first expansion I've seen in Seneca County since Lowe's, I believe, that's a long time span. I think it's important, it's critical, but I think it's only a first step. Now, if we're looking at adding 1,800 to 2,000 jobs, that's fantastic for our region. It's fantastic for the county. It's fantastic for the community to build that in, to have that additional revenue, to have places where people can go to get good jobs. But we need to look at that as a first start. We need to take that to the next level. We need to look at expanding on that and further development and bringing more businesses in. Not that it's a lifeline, but it's certainly a start. It's the preserver's been thrown in. We need to grab it and then hoist ourselves into the boat and carry on.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on. This half hour has gone really quickly.
It's been my pleasure.
Yeah, thanks a lot for coming on.
Thanks for spending the last half hour with me here on FLX Weekly. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. And if you'd like to drop us a line, send an email to contact@fingerlakes1.com. We have a great weekend ahead of us here in the Finger Lakes, so whatever your plans, get out there and enjoy.